The story begins with a woman named Mi-jeong. Mi-jeong is an introvert, quiet and difficult to express her feelings. When she was eating with her office friends after work, it seemed that Mi-jeong was just silent when all her friends were chatting. Until one of her friends asked the reason why Mi-jeong did not join the club in the office, because it was an obligation and all office people had to join one of the clubs. Mi-jeong could only answer that she could not join the club because her house was located very far from the office, so she had to go home early. After eating, they decided to play bowling. In the midst of the excitement of her friends, Mi-jeong felt still lonely because she had difficulty socializing and it was difficult to build friendships with her friends. Mi-jeong also asked permission to go home first to her friend because her house was far away. After that, Mi-jeong went to the restaurant to meet her sister to go home together. Mi-jeong's sister is named Gi-jeong. Different from Mi-jeong, Gi-jeong is very extroverted and expressive. Again there, Mi-jeong just silently listened to her sister who was confiding in her friend. Her sister vented because now that she was old, she never got married because she couldn't find a boyfriend. Gi-jeong also told that she had just dated a one-child widower, and dating a widower was very unpleasant because a widower would definitely be more concerned with his child. Hearing the story, her friends immediately tried to stop Gi-jeong from talking, because it turned out that the man sitting next to them was a widower along with his daughter. When they immediately said goodbye, and it turned out that Mi-jeong recognized the widower because the man was an office mate of Mi-jeong.
제가 비록 이혼해서 이렇게 사랑스러운 아이를.
Another place shows Mi-jeong's older brother named Changi. On that day, Changi also had a problem because he had just been dumped by his girlfriend, because his girlfriend was caught cheating on her with another man.
싶단 말은 사랑한단 말인 거 모르냐?
넌 그렇게 안 써?
그래서
After that, it shows the three siblings returning to their home far away in their village using a taxi. While in the taxi, they were thinking about their own problems while looking at the city streets. The next day, the three siblings helped their parents work in the fields and their parents worked as farmers. There was also a man who was hired by Mi-jeong's father to become a farmer named Mr. Ji-yu. His background is not clear. He never told who he was before because he suddenly came to the village and asked to be a farmer to Mi-jeong's father. Mi-jeong's father, who needed employees, finally hired the man. After being tired of farming all day, they ate together. While eating, Changi, who had just cheated on his girlfriend and felt that he was cheated on because he was poor and did not have a car. At that time, Changi also asked his father for permission to buy a car, but his father did not give permission because previously Changi had a car installment but could not afford to pay it. Because he did not get permission, Changi immediately vented his frustration. Changi reasoned why not get married until old because he did not have a car like a poor man, which made many women reject his love.
거기에 맞게 제가 작게 전기차 사치품도 아니에요. 그리고 제가 뭐 또 할부 차도 없고요.
In the evening, Changi was seen hanging out with his friend named Do-han. There they also talked about their respective problems. Changi said that he had just been cheated on by his girlfriend, but Do-han also said that his life was worse because he had not been dating for a long time, because every woman he approached always avoided because Do-han had just gone bankrupt. Besides that, his face was ugly, which made one of the women he had approached said that Do-han looked like an abandoned pig. After telling it all, they at least became more relieved and laughed at their respective lives. They also thought if they were not born in a remote village but were born in the capital city of Seoul, would their lives be better? Changi immediately answered that their lives would definitely be better than today.
우리 달랐어?
서울을 감싸고 있는 계란 흰자. 그냥 딱 촌스러운 인간이고.
The next morning, Mi-jeong went to the office as usual. While on the way, she passed Mr. Ji-yu. At that time, the two of them did not greet each other, and Mi-jeong began to think about Mr. Ji-yu, because she felt that Mi-jeong and Mr. Ji-yu were both introverted and difficult to express what they thought. When in the office, Mi-jeong was asked to meet her boss along with two other employees. The reason her boss called the three of them was because they decided not to join the club in office, even though it was something that was mandatory to improve friendships in the office, and it turned out that one of the three people had met Mi-jeong yesterday evening. Their boss also asked them why they didn't join the club. Mi-jeong answered that her house was very far from the office, so when she got off work she had to go straight home to get a taxi. Then a widower named Taehan explained that he couldn't join the club because he had to take care of his daughter after work, and the other man explained that he couldn't join the club because he was an introvert, but their boss said that it was an office policy, so in the future the three of them would inevitably have to choose one of the clubs. After talking about it, Mi-jeong went back to work, but suddenly her other boss crossed out Mi-jeong's work and said that Mi-jeong's work was not correct and had to revise her performance. After returning from the office, Mi-jeong went to the cafe to revise her report. There Mi-jeong was very sad because she had just been scolded, but she was confused to tell because she was very introverted and had no friends, so Mi-jeong could only cry alone. The next day, Mi-jeong accidentally overheard her coworkers gossiping about her. When one of her friends asked a male employee who was single why he didn't try to approach Mi-jeong, the man also said that Mi-jeong was indeed a beautiful woman, but her personality was very innocent, so that Mi-jeong became very unattractive. Because of these words, Mi-jeong always thought about it when she came home from work. She kept thinking about why she was a quiet girl like now and unattractive. She also thought that if she had been born in the capital city, maybe she would be a different person and not constrained like now. She wanted to say something but was confused. Even she wanted to make friends but didn't have friends who really understood her. The next morning, Mi-jeong got a message from a bank employee. When the bank employee said that the credit debt from Mi-jeong was due, so that Mi-jeong had to pay it immediately. If Mi-jeong could not pay it, they would send a bill to her house. Told the reason why Mi-jeong got into debt, actually it was not her debt, but in the past Mi-jeong had known a man who had been close to her, but because of Mi-jeong's innocence lent her name at the bank so that the man could get into debt on behalf of Mi-jeong. And what Mi-jeong did not expect was that the man deceived her. So now when the man did not pay her debts, Mi-jeong was the one who had to bear everything. Mi-jeong also tried to contact the man, but the man never replied. In the evening, the three siblings hung out with village friends and told each other their problems. Mi-jeong, who had problems, but because she was introverted, she just listened to what her friends were talking about, while thinking about the debt problems she had to face.
난 조선시대가 맞았어.
딱 마음에 안 들면 그냥 딴 애랑 놀면 돼.
The next morning, Mi-jeong went to Mr. Gu's house and asked for help so that the debt letter sent by the bank was sent to Mr. Gu's house, and Mi-jeong asked Mr. Gu to keep it a secret, because Mi-jeong did not want her family to know that she had a large debt at the bank. Mr. Gu, who was quiet without asking questions, immediately agreed to the request from Mi-jeong. The next day after work, Mr. Gu gave the bill to Mi-jeong. Then in the evening, Mi-jeong's mother told her daughter to deliver food to Mr. Gu's house. When she arrived there, Mi-jeong, who felt that she had troubled Mr. Gu, then tried to explain the reason why the debt bill had to be deposited at Mr. Gu's house. Again there, Mr. Gu was just silent. Mi-jeong also felt that they both had the same nature, and somehow when she was with Mr. Gu, Mi-jeong felt calm. She felt that Mr. Gu could understand her, two introverts in the midst of a very crowded world. The next day the office held a meal together and everyone was assigned a group to sit together. It turned out that Mi-jeong was at the same table with her two friends who decided not to join the club, namely Taehan and Changmin. Finished eating, coincidentally Mi-jeong won elevator with Taehan. There Mi-jeong apologized for her sister's treatment the other day if it offended Taehan, but Taehan said it was not a problem. While at work, Changi supervised the store in the branch. Coincidentally, on that day the cashier at the store was busy. That's why Changi helped by becoming a temporary cashier. While being a cashier, unexpectedly suddenly Changi's ex came to shop at the store, and more surprisingly Changi's ex turned out to bring her new boyfriend. When met, Changi pretended not to recognize his ex, because in addition to heartache he also felt embarrassed and inappropriate, because now his ex's new boyfriend is more handsome and richer than Changi. That's why he was self-conscious and pretended to be foreign to his ex. Changi could only see in silence his ex to go by using her new boyfriend's expensive car. Changi also felt that his decision to leave his girlfriend was right, because his girlfriend is now happy with someone who is richer and has a car, not like Changi who has nothing. Elsewhere shows Mi-jeong, who contacted one of the friends of the guy who owed on behalf of Mi-jeong. His friend also told Mi-jeong that the guy had run away to Thailand and tried to get back together with his ex. There Mi-jeong certainly felt hurt because in addition to being confused about paying debts, it turns out that the guy also left Mi-jeong by getting back together with his ex. After work, Mi-jeong saw her parents running towards Mr. Gu's house. Mi-jeong, who was curious, then followed them. There they found Mr. Gu, who was having a nosebleed. Mi-jeong's father immediately took Mr. Gu to the hospital. Arriving at the Mi-jeong family's house to talk about what happened to Mr. Gu, Mi-jeong's mom said that Mr. Gu was seriously ill, maybe because of his habit of always getting drunk, and when he was drunk he fell. Mi-jeong's mom continued to tell the story of Mr. Gu's arrival. At first no one knew who Mr. Gu was, even Mr. Gu was not his real name, and no one knew the background of Mr. Gu. Mr. Gu only came to the village and asked for a job. Then Mi-jeong's father, who saw Mr. Gu as a diligent person, finally Mi-jeong's father hired Mr. Gu. Mi-jeong also answered the reason why Mr. Ji-yu never told about his background, maybe because he had problems in his past, and he came to the village to hide from something. But Mi-jeong's mother doubted what her daughter said, because Mi-jeong's mother believed that Mr. Ji-yu was a good person, seen from his behavior and attitude. In between the talks, Chang-gi looked at the window, and how surprised he was to see Mr. Ji-yu already there to get drunk as usual, even though just this afternoon Mr. Ji-yu looked in pain. But that's what Mr. Ji-yu always does every night. He never once stopped drinking alcohol and getting drunk. It seems Mr. Ji-yu wants to forget something in his life by continuing to get drunk every night. The next day at the office, Mi-jeong saw her boss very disappointed with Mi-jeong's work. It made Mi-jeong sad, and not only that, the other boss also kept telling Mi-jeong to join the club. She said that she had found a club that was suitable for Mi-jeong, who liked to be alone. In front of her boss, Mi-jeong couldn't hold back her tears. Apart from being scolded by her boss earlier, Mi-jeong was also sad because actually being alone was not her life choice. She really wanted to have friends and say what she thought and tell her about her complaints, but she couldn't, and that's why Mi-jeong could only cry, because no matter how much Mi-jeong tried to change, she would still be a strange introvert and couldn't get along. After work, Mi-jeong could only lament her life. She felt that no matter how hard she tried to change, no one really liked her and could understand what Mi-jeong felt. Arriving in the village, because she was fed up with her life, Mi-jeong, who saw Mr. Ji-yu who was drunk, immediately approached Mr. Ji-yu, and said instead of Mr. Ji-yu doing something futile by getting drunk every day, Mi-jeong asked Mr. Ji-yu to praise Mi-jeong, because Mi-jeong was tired of her life. Her heart always felt empty and she wanted her heart to be full. All the men Mi-jeong met were all jerks. That's why she asked Mr. Ji-yu to praise Mi-jeong. That's what she wanted and never got from other men.
조금 있으면 겨울이에요. 난 한 번도 채워진 적이 없어. 지옥 같을 거예요.
Mr. Ji-yu also replied, he could not do that request because Mi-jeong did not know who Mr. Ji-yu really was, the background that Mr. Ji-yu had experienced, even the real name of Mr. Ji-yu did not know. Mr. Ji-yu said that he was as jerk as other men, and Mr. Ji-yu told Mi-jeong to go home. But when he got home, Mr. Ji-yu continued to think about what Mi-jeong said. He also pondered how to praise someone. He even looked for words of praise on the internet. The next night, Mi-jeong's office friend asked why Mi-jeong hasn't gone home yet, even though Mi-jeong always wants to go home on time. Hearing that Mi-jeong said that today she didn't want to go home early, that's because Mi-jeong was reluctant to meet Mr. Ji-yu, remembering what she said last night was too frank with Mr. Ji-yu. The next day, while at the office, Mi-jeong tried to contact the man who owed money on her behalf to collect the debt, and finally Mi-jeong got a reply message from the man, but unexpectedly the man cursed Mi-jeong. In the evening, when Mi-jeong came home from work, she accidentally met her former brother. Mi-jeong talked to her former brother and found out that his ex never left Chang-gi, but Chang-gi decided to leave this girl. Upon arrival home, Mi-jeong also spoke to Chang-gi that just now she met with Chang-gi's ex-girlfriend. Mi-jeong asked why before Chang-gi always upset because left by his ex-girlfriend. Chang-gi always told that it was his ex-girlfriend who left him, when in fact Chang-gi asked for a breakup, and his ex-girlfriend was always trying to call and invite Chang-gi to come back. Chang-gi, who could no longer cover his lies, finally honest. It's true, he was looking for ways to leave his ex-girlfriend. It was Chang-gi do because he felt insecure. He felt inappropriate to date his ex, because Chang-gi felt if his ex-girlfriend was entitled to be happy with a man who is richer than Chang-gi now, Chang-gi felt he could not make his ex happy because now he is very poor.
아, 이놈 별거 없고 나는 그 재수없는 5만 년 혼자 봐서 헤어진 걸로 만들고 배 중에 내가 최고의 패는 아니라는 거 알아?
The next day, when in the office at lunchtime, Mi-jeong was again called by her boss to discuss the club that Mi-jeong had to choose. There Mi-jeong also met with her two friends who both did not have a club. While waiting for the three of them began to think about how to keep them from being called by them boss again. Mi-jeong suddenly got the idea to create a liberation club whose members only contained the three of them. Hearing that the three of them finally agreed.
뭘 하시겠다는...
The next morning, Mi-jeong was seen going to the office, when she crossed paths with Mr. Ji-yu, and since the incident of Mi-jeong who wanted to be praised by Mr. Ji-yu, the two of them have now never greeted again because they feel reluctant. At that time, Mi-jeong also ventured to turn around and look at Mr. Ji-yu, while saying that from now on they both had to greet each other. During the weekend when farming in the fields, at that time Mi-jeong, who saw Mr. Ji-yu whose heart was empty, then asked if Mr. Ji-yu wanted to be praised. because Mi-jeong was willing to do it. Hearing that Mr. Ji-yu was just silent and thought about it, Mr. Ji-yu continued to think about what was said by Mi-jeong until the evening. Then showed Mr. Ji-yu who was invited to eat at Mi-jeong's house. At that time Mi-jeong's mother said that her husband liked the performance of Mr. Ji-yu. According to him, Mr. Ji-yu was very good at work. Besides that, Mi-jeong's mother also said that this was the first time her husband praised other people, whereas previously Mi-jeong's father only praised Mi-jeong in terms of work. Mi-jeong's mother then told that when she was a child, Mi-jeong always helped her father's work, both in the fields and in the warehouse, and soon Gi-jeong and Changi came into the house while arguing. Inside the house, Gi-jeong took a slipper and threw it at Changi, but unfortunately the slipper hit Mi-jeong's head because Changi dodged. Mi-jeong, who looked silent, immediately picked up the slipper and threw it out. In the evening, Changi met Mr. Ji-yu to invite him to talk. There Changi told him about Mi-jeong, who was rarely angry, but she would be very scary when angry, so Changi told Mr. Ji-yu to be careful with Mi-jeong. Meanwhile, one of Mi-jeong's friends called her colleagues, and showed the Liberation Club along with the members in her computer, so it made everyone laugh at her. They then asked Mi-jeong about the club, but Mi-jeong was confused because she still did not have a plan for the club. Mi-jeong then said that she would try to get out of a cage, which was invisible but felt restrictive in her life. In another place, a customer scolded Mi-jeong's father because the price of the cupboard was too expensive, so the customer asked Mi-jeong's father to dismantle it again. Mi-jeong's father, who could not do anything, then left with Mr. Ji-yu, who drove his car, but after arriving home Mr. Ji-yu suddenly went back to the customer's house. There Mr. Ji-yu asked the customer for his payment, and it is not known what Mr. Ji-yu did to the customer, but the man finally agreed to pay him. Mr. Ji-yu then left and immediately handed over the money to Mi-jeong's mother. During dinner, Mi-jeong's mother was curious about the way Mr. Ji-yu collected money from the customer, but her husband, who heard, could only remain silent, while Mr. Ji-yu, who was going to buy a drink, suddenly remembered his past. The next day they went to the cafe for the first meeting of the Liberation Club, where the three of them gathered and sat side by side without facing each other, because they thought that way could make them feel comfortable. The three of them then chatted together about all things, especially about freedom. Meanwhile, Mi-jeong, who was enjoying the rain, then saw Mr. Ji-yu, who was drinking alcohol. Suddenly lightning struck an electric pole near Mr. Ji-yu, which made the village blackout. Mi-jeong, who felt worried about Mr. Gu's condition, then immediately ran to meet him and told him to go into the house, but Mr. Ji-yu was silent and ignored Mi-jeong's words, so Mi-jeong pulled Mr. Gu's hand and immediately took him into the house. The next day, while in the field, Mi-jeong along with others were seen picking vegetables, and while resting suddenly the wind blew so hard that it made Mi-jeong's hat fly far across the road. Seeing that, Changi then told Mi-jeong to pick it up herself, but unexpectedly Mr. Ji-yu even stood up and was going to pick it up. He then ran very fast and jumped to pick up the hat. After taking the hat, Mr. Ji-yu then jumped to return, and from the behavior that Mr. Ji-yu did, it looks like he has started to open his heart to praise Mi-jeong. After taking Mr. Gu's hat, then gave it to Changi and then went to continue his work. Changi, who felt amazed by Mr. Gu's action, then followed him. Chani said that such a jump could only be done by an athlete. Changi, who was still curious about the figure of Mr. Ji-yu, then asked what Mr. Gu's real name was. Changi thought that Mr. Ji-yu could be one of the national jumping athletes, because there are several national athletes who have names with the same clan. When finished eating, Changi still asked questions while following Mr. Ji-yu from behind, but it actually made Mr. Ji-yu annoyed, so that Mr. Ji-yu stopped his steps and told Changi to be quiet. In the evening, while eating, Mi-jeong saw her father come out with a bottle of mosquito repellent that had run out. Mi-jeong, who knew it, then decided to go buy it. On the way, Mi-jeong kept thinking about Mr. Gu's attitude, which made her very confused, because on one side Mr. Gu has always been kind to her, but on the other side Mr. Gu suddenly turned out to be indifferent. When returning from the mini-market, Mi-jeong met Mr. Ji-yu on the road. Mi-jeong then said that she had bought a drink and then gave it to Mr. Gu. Seeing that Mr. Gu accepted it, and when he was about to go home, Mr. Ji-yu asked Mi-jeong if she was sure that the two of them could change into different people if they praised each other. Hearing that, Mi-jeong then replied that the two of them would change if they praised each other, because based on experience, people will change after doing what they have never done before.
하다 보면 다른 사람 돼 있을 거라면.
한 번도 안 해봤을 거 아니에요.
The next day, after returning home to buy drinks, Mr. Ji-yu met Mi-jeong, who was just out of the station. When Mi-jeong came up to Mr. Ji-yu, he looked confused and immediately left to avoid Mi-jeong. even though Mi-jeong was trying to open a conversation in order to get closer to Mr. Ji-yu. But Mi-jeong had to be disappointed when she saw Mr. Ji-yu, who was in a hurry to leave her, and it turned out that Mr. Ji-yu deliberately did that because he felt confused about what to do, especially since he had to deal directly with the Mi-jeong family. In the evening, Mr. Ji-yu was seen standing in front of Mi-jeong's house. He intended to give the ice cream that had been purchased earlier, but because Mr. Ji-yu did not dare to give the ice cream, he finally chose to go home and put the ice cream in the refrigerator. The next day, Mr. also received his salary. While thanking to Mi-jeong's father, Mr. Ji-yu was silent in front of the warehouse while looking at the scenery, but in the end Mr. decided to go back in and ventured to ask Mi-jeong's father for Mi-jeong's cell phone number.
막내따님 전화번호 좀.
이정이?
네.
When returning home from work, Mi-jeong stopped her steps when she received a message from Mr. Ji-yu, who said that he had received his salary today. When he returned home, Mr. Ji-yu asked why Mi-jeong always seemed depressed even though Mi-jeong had a complete family. Hearing this, Mi-jeong replied that there was still a side of her father and mother that Mi-jeong did not like, including her two siblings. Actually, Mi-jeong felt sorry for her father, who never looked happy, while her mother did not look happy because of the behavior of her children, and that's why if there is a big problem they will hide it from their parents. Shortly thereafter, Gi-jeong got off the bus and looked at them both in surprise, and after that they went home together. After work, Chang-gi then went to Mr. Gu's house to give him a drink, but when called, Mr. Ji-yu did not give an answer. Chang-gi finally decided to go into house, which happened to be unlocked. There he also kept the drinks he bought into the refrigerator, and shortly thereafter Chang-gi suddenly saw a green light in a room, and when he entered the room, Chang-gi was shocked when he saw many used bottles lined up on the floor. In the evening, Mr. Ji-yu, who was drinking, was then visited by Mi-jeong. There they talked to each other, and Mr. Ji-yu, who remembered the ice cream he bought and then gave it to Mi-jeong.
맨정신일 때 나보다 인정이 좀 많아.
좋은데?
Because of that, Mi-jeong finally started interacting with her friends because she felt better, while Mr. Ji-yu was seen cleaning his house, and after he finished he took a photo of his house and sent it to Mi-jeong. When she returned home from work, Mi-jeong approached Mr. Ji-yu, who was waiting for her to go home together. Upon arrival at the house, Mr. Ji-yu said that he previously found it difficult to clean his house, especially to get rid of all the bottles he used to drink, but after he praised Mi-jeong, Mr. Ji-yu felt excited to clean his house. The next day, Chang-gi, who was still curious about Mr. Gu's jumping action, then decided to try it, but this is what happened. Then seen Mr. Gu's cell phone that keeps vibrating because it receives a lot of messages, and the content of the message is asking where Mr. Gu's current location is, and from the message we can find out that Mr. Gu's real name is Gu-jeong. When everyone was seen working in the fields, Gu-jeong and Mi-jeong were seen cleaning the grass, while Gi-jeong was drying her clothes while watching Gu-jeong, who gave Mi-jeong a drink. After finishing drying, the Gi-jeong then relaxed while wearing an umbrella. Her mother, who saw it, immediately scolded her. With annoyance, Gi-jeong also said that Mi-jeong and Gu-jeong were not working but they were dating. Long story short, Mi-jeong sent a message to Gu-jeong and told him that today she would be late because there was a club gathering. Mi-jeong also informed that the club only contained 3 members who had the same goal of wanting to feel freedom. When the meeting began, Sang-min became the first person to reveal the contents of his heart from his notebook. On the other hand, Mi-jeong was contacted by Gi-jeong, who informed her that she was already in front of the cafe where Mi-jeong was. Gi-jeong deliberately waited for Mi-jeong because she needed help to carry her office stuff to the house. Gi-jeong was seen continuing to scold Mi-jeong on the phone, so that without realizing it, Taehan came up to her and surprised her. Taehan then invited Gi-jeong to come in because the show would soon be over. When Taehan revealed his heart, everyone was silent to hear the story from Taehan. He said that as a child his father died and was followed by his mother a year later. Then when at school he was insulted as an orphan, and that was the reason why Taehan would never leave his daughter even though he had divorced his wife, because Taehan knew how it felt to forfeit. Besides that, Taehan also always tried to be the best father for his daughter. Therefore Taehan wrote in his notebook that he wanted to be free from feelings of weakness. On the way home, Gi-jeong decided to ask Mi-jeong for Taehan's cell phone number, because she wanted to beat up Taehan's friends who had hurt him. Gi-jeong, who had gotten Taehan's number, then immediately contacted him. Gi-jeong said that she would beat up Taehan's friends, knowing that Taehan replied that he was currently close friends with them, so that made Gi-jeong feel surprised. Elsewhere, Mi-jeong continued to try to contact a man named Ka-hyuk, who borrowed money at the bank under her name to be responsible, but when connected Kahyuk scolded her so that Mi-jeong could only cry. Kahyuk also said that he could not pay the debt.
장기팔로 왔다. 돈도 아닌데 왜 신용불량자가 되냐?
신용불량자가 돼야 돼요.
Arriving home, Gi-jeong asked Mi-jeong about who first asked her out. Hearing that Mi-jeong replied that they were not dating, it was just that Mi-jeong told Gu-jeong to praise her. Elsewhere, Gu-jeong was seen answering the phone from someone for the first time. The caller immediately scolded Gu-jeong for never answering his phone, after which the caller said Samsik went to the cemetery and met with the leader of Shin, who asked where Gu-jeong was. The caller then said that it seems that the Shin leader now hates Director Beck, and if they act now, Director Beck will be destroyed. After that, Gu-jeong also asked how Sabi was doing to the caller, but the caller said that he didn't know because he hadn't seen him for a long time. From the conversation we may be confused and wondering, because the people and events in the conversation have never been told before, but gradually everything will be revealed. The next day, Mi-jeong paid her friend's debt by withdrawing money from the deposit of her future house. Mi-jeong did this because she did not want her family to know about her problem. After her business was completed, Mi-jeong came out of the bank and saw Gu-jeong in front of her, and then they left together. Gu-jeong then asked if Mi-jeong paid off all her debts. Hearing that Mi-jeong said that she had paid off everything and that her friend would pay her later, Gu-jeong became so annoyed that he asked for the name and asked for the cell phone number of Mi-jeong's friend, but Mi-jeong refused and made Gu-jeong think that Mi-jeong still liked him. After arriving, Gu-jeong told Mi-jeong to wait, while he would make noodles. There, Mi-jeong poured out her frustration because Gu-jeong did not support her decision. Mi-jeong said that Gu-jeong should praise her so that Mi-jeong could gather courage to say all the things she wanted to say to her friend. After that, Gu-jeong put noodles on the table and told Mi-jeong to eat it. Mi-jeong then sat next to Gu-jeong and told him to get water. And after getting water for Mi-jeong, Gu-jeong said that Mi-jeong would be surprised if she knew who Gu-jeong really was. Gu-jeong also admitted that he was very scary. In addition, Gu-jeong also said that he was not afraid even if someone tried to kill him. But this time Gu-jeong felt scared when dealing with Mi-jeong, so he felt very upset because he looked like a fool and always looked forward to Mi-jeong's presence. At dinner, Gi-jeong, who was curious about the relationship between Gu-jeong and her sister, then asked if it was true that they praised each other. Gu-jeong only responded by nodding his head. Changi, who knew that Gi-jeong did not understand the meaning of mutual praise, then asked Gu-jeong to tolerate it. While in the office, Mi-jeong was fixing the results of the report she had made. Mi-jeong then went to the cafe while carrying her laptop. There, Mi-jeong sat while imagining that there would be someone by her side, and shortly thereafter Gu-jeong came to sit in the chair next to Mi-jeong, while drinking the drinks he had ordered, and finally Mi-jeong's imagination came true. Long story short, when Gu-jeong was filling up gasoline, suddenly a man named Samsik saw him. He immediately told it to his boss while showing the truck driven by Gu-jeong, but his boss did not believe it because he thought it was impossible for Gu-jeong to drive a truck. Then at the office, Mi-jeong met her boss to give a report, but her boss told Mi-jeong to keep it on the table. When Mi-jeong left, her boss insulted her by saying that Mi-jeong could not work, but when the executives saw Mi-jeong's work design, they liked it. Meanwhile, Gu-jeong was seen waiting for Mi-jeong at the station. While waiting for Gu-jeong to go to the mini-market to buy snacks and drinks, at the same time Mi-jeong, who got out of the train, then ran towards the exit gate, but Mi-jeong did not find Gu-jeong there. Mi-jeong then walked alone and almost collided with Gu-jeong, who had just come out of the mini-market, after which they left together. While working, Gu-jeong read a message from the previous caller. Gu-jeong then went out and contacted the person. When answered, the person said that Samsik had seen Gu-jeong while filling up gas. Samsik even planned to look for Gu-jeong. Besides that, the person also told Gu-jeong to immediately go out and attack Director Beck first, because if not, then Director Beck would attack him first. Hearing this, Gu-jeong replied that he would appear soon, but not now because Gu-jeong was still very busy, after which Gu-jeong was seen hanging up the phone and continuing his work. In the evening, Gu-jeong waited for Mi-jeong's arrival at the station, and when Mi-jeong came, they went together. While walking, Mi-jeong continued to chat with Gu-jeong, even though previously Mi-jeong never talked if no one asked her, but this time Mi-jeong continued to tell stories ranging from weather changes, dead animals that lay on the road, even the frogs that crossed her.
먹다가는 쥐대가리. 이쪽 눈에서 저쪽 눈 바닥에 여기저기.
The next day, Mi-jeong, who felt a slight change in her, she then told her boss. Mi-jeong now seemed to be free to say everything that was on her mind, so that Mi-jeong felt that she deserved to be loved. Meanwhile, the rope used to tie the goods suddenly broke. making the items carried by Mi-jeong's father fall on the road. Mi-jeong's father, who saw it, told Gu-jeong to stop, then he went out to clean up because it could disturb other motorists. Meanwhile, Mr. Beck, who happened to pass by there, saw Gu-jeong, who was lifting things. Samsik and Mr. Beck then got out of the car and approached Gu-jeong. They then took Gu-jeong to a place to talk to him. There Mr. Beck said that if Gu-jeong was acting by pretending to be a poor man. We also learned that Gu-jeong had dated Mr. Beck's sister, but unfortunately his girlfriend has now passed away. After that, Gu-jeong returned home on foot. Mi-jeong's father, who was worried about Gu-jeong, continued to pay attention to his employee's house, but Mi-jeong's father was relieved after seeing Gu-jeong, who had arrived at his house. Arriving home, Mi-jeong prepared snacks for Gu-jeong and then told him to rest because Gu-jeong looked very tired, and when she returned home her mother asked why Mi-jeong always went to Gu-jeong's house after work, and Mi-jeong innocently said that they were now dating. Mi-jeong's mother, who heard that, was surprised as well as Gi-jeong. The next morning as usual, Gu-jeong helped Mi-jeong's father work. Mi-jeong's father, who thought that Gu-jeong was taken by debt collectors, then said that in the past he had also made a mistake, because in the past he was willing to become someone's collateral when borrowing money from the bank, but on the other side Mi-jeong's father was still grateful because he could pay off all the debts thanks to the business he was running. Mi-jeong's father then advised Gu-jeong to work seriously, so that his life would be better. Hearing that, Gu-jeong was only silent and then he asked permission to buy a new rope. Meanwhile, Mi-jeong, who was at Gu-jeong's house, then asked why Gu-jeong didn't drink today, but before Gu-jeong could answer, suddenly his cell phone rang. Mi-jeong, who saw it, then told Gu-jeong to pick it up, but Gu-jeong refused while asking why. Mi-jeong told her mother that they were dating. It should be hidden until the end of their agreement, because it could be that Gu-jeong would leave without Mi-jeong's knowing. Hearing that, Mi-jeong said that the end of the relationship was a natural thing, so there was no need to worry and hide it. Before going home, Mi-jeong asked Gu-jeong to say whatever he wanted to say. Gu-jeong then said that he once told another person who wanted to commit suicide to immediately see a psychiatrist, but unfortunately that person chose to jump and then die. When Mi-jeong asked who the person was, Gu-jeong then replied that she was his girlfriend in the past. Gu-jeong also said that Mi-jeong could stop him to praise if Mi-jeong asked him to stop. Hearing that, Mi-jeong also said, since when has Gu-jeong ever praised her? Then the story goes back to the past, which shows that Gu-jeong woke up after hearing the sound of screaming from Mi-jeong. Gu-jeong then realized that he was at Dangmi station and immediately got out of the train, and it turned out that Mi-jeong had managed to save Gu-jeong, because if Gu-jeong continued to follow Samsik's orders to meet him at Oido station, then he would be beaten by the thugs of Samsik's orders. After buying a drink, Gu-jeong was seen walking into a public telephone, where he was on the phone with someone complaining that Chairman Shin was waiting for the two of them to get rid of Mr. Beck. Hearing that, Gu-jeong said that he was now tired and then he hung up and left. The next day, Gu-jeong, who was working in the warehouse, then saw Samsik, who was stalking him. Realizing that Samsik was hiding because he had been caught by Gu-jeong. Elsewhere, Mi-jeong, who was eating with her friend, then told her that Gu-jeong was a good person and he was a real person. After finishing eating, Mi-jeong went to Changi's office, because Changi wanted to leave a new alcohol product to Mi-jeong to give to Gu-jeong. When she arrived at Gu-jeong's house, Mi-jeong immediately gave him alcohol from Changi. Gu-jeong then poured it into a glass and then drank it. Seeing that, Mi-jeong asked why Gu-jeong did not say anything to her. While smiling, Gu-jeong said that this is the first time he heard a woman say like that, but it doesn't sound boring to him. Hearing that, Mi-jeong became annoyed and said that Gu-jeong could not make the woman he liked feel comfortable. Besides that, Mi-jeong also felt that Gu-jeong always underestimated her because she could not get her money back. After that, Mi-jeong then left there and Gu-jeong could only laugh when he saw her. The next morning, Gu-jeong stopped his car in front of a club and then went inside. Everyone who was there then bowed to salute when he saw Gu-jeong, and it turned out that Gu-jeong went to see Mr. Beck in his room. Once there, Mr. Beck asked what the purpose of Gu-jeong's arrival this time was, but Gu-jeong only replied that he couldn't sleep lately because he was annoyed with Mr. Beck, who had misjudged him. Mr. Beck thought that Gu-jeong was acting by pretending to live in poverty, when in fact Gu-jeong was taking a break from his routine. Besides that, Gu-jeong also felt disappointed with Mr. Beck for betraying him in business, so Gu-jeong also told him to be patient because soon Gu-jeong would return and would make two choices, namely between quitting his business and continuing to garden, or continuing to run his business because he wanted to be in power. Gu-jeong even warned Mr. Beck not to bother him, and not to upset him until he actually returned. When walking out, Gu-jeong called Samsik by shouting, "Samsik," who was worried that Gu Jeong had misunderstood him, then explained that at that time he did not send a message to Gu Jeong to go to Oedo Station, because at that time his cell phone was borrowed by Mr. Beck, and it turned out that Gu Jeong had known about it because he had been told by Hyunjin. When returning from work, Mi-jeong was contacted by Gu Jeong, who told her that he was waiting for her. Mi-jeong then went to meet Gu Jeong and immediately left by car. Changi, who saw Gu Jeong's arrival, then met him while carrying the car keys he took from the toilet of Gu Jeong's house. Chani then begged Gu Jeong to say that he really had a car. Hearing that, Gu Jeong immediately took Changi to the apartment and looked for his car in the basement. Seeing that, Changi was immediately amazed when he saw the car and then immediately hugged Gu Jeong. Changi, who felt happy, then decided to drive the car. After getting out of the department store, Mi-jeong then left by using Gu Jeong's car driven by Changi. Even when pulled over, Changi began to be respected by others because he drove a luxury car.
차는 주차하기 힘들어서 하여튼 너무 멋집니다.
Arriving at their house, Mom also asked whose car was in front. Hearing that, Duan immediately answered that it belonged to his friend who was entrusted because he was going abroad. Long story short, at night, Gu Jeong woke up from sleep after hearing noises from outside. Gu Jeong then saw two suspicious people who were checking Mi-jeong's father's car, and then they put something on the car. The next morning, Gu Jeong then saw and found a tracking device under the car. Gu Jeong, who wanted to test the tracking device, then went to several places to make sure. There, Gu Jeong saw a car coming. He then hid, and when the car parked, Gu Jeong went straight and broke the car's glass, and quickly Gu Jeong grabbed the person's shirt and told him to contact Mr. Beck, but it turned out that they were messengers from Boss Shin. Gu Jeong was then invited by Boss Shin to meet. After a long time, there was no news. Boss Shin initially thought that Gu Jeong had been killed by Mr. Beck, but he became relieved after learning that Gu Jeong was still alive. Boss Shin then told Gu Jeong to come back immediately if his rest time was over, because Boss Shin had to give a high position to someone who was strong, so as not to be seen as weak by others. Boss Shin felt that Mr. Beck was not suitable for the position, so many people underestimated Boss Shin wherever he was, but for now Gu Jeong was still not interested and chose to stay in Sanpo village. Meanwhile, Gu Jeong's friend named Hyojin was seen at Mi-jeong's father's shop. Mi-jeong's mother, who saw, then asked what he was looking for. There, Hyojin said if he was looking for Gu Jeong because he was his friend. Hearing that, Mi-jeong's mother then invited him to enter the house. After that, Hyojin was seen drinking while looking at the family photos on display. Soon Gu Jeong and Mi-jeong's father came. They then shook hands and ate together. Hyojin then told Mi-jeong's father that Gu Jeong was a very great person, but Mi-jeong's father was only silent, listening to him. After that, Hyojin also asked Gu Jeong to return immediately because the people who depended on him were now feeling difficult. Elsewhere, Mi-jeong got a new member in the Liberation Club, and it turned out that the person was Yangi. Her boss said that she felt interested in joining after attending their activities last time, but she only dared to join now.
안 돼요. 싫어요. 행복하지 않은데.
Elsewhere, when Mi-jeong's father was buying work equipment, he saw Changi, who was driving a luxury car. When he got home, his father asked whose car Changi was using. Hearing that, Changi replied that the car belonged to his friend. His father, who felt disbelieved, finally continued to press him so that Changi finally told if the car was owned by Gu Jeong. Hearing that, his father was just silent. Changi then continued that actually Gu Jeong is a rich man, and Gu Jeong himself who told Changi to use the car, but his father instead forbade Changi to use the car because the car was not his. Hearing that, Changi became very upset and protested to his father. He said why his father never liked to see Changi happy. And while pounding the table, his father said because the car was an expensive car with a price of hundreds of millions won, and shortly thereafter Gu Jeong came, but Gu Jeong was surprised because the situation at that time looked very awkward. The next day, Gu Jeong met Hyojin. Gu Jeong said that there was one man he wanted to get rid of because he annoyed Gu Jeong, because he was doing business illegally by selling drugs to every club visitor, and apparently the man referred to by Gu Jeong was Mr. Beck. After hearing this, Hyojin immediately contacted Boss Shin and told him that Gu Jeong would return to the club. The next morning, the police came to the club to arrest Mr. Beck, but he managed to escape. Mr. Beck, who knew that it was the work of Gu Jeong, then he also contacted him and told him to wait there, because Mr. Beck would come to mess up Sanpo village. While walking with Mi-jeong, Gu Jeong told her that he would go to Seoul. When Mi-jeong asked him why, Gu Jeong was silent and never gave an answer. In the evening, Mi-jeong cried in her room and decided to go to Gu Jeong's house. where Gu-jeong was packing bottles of drinks and Mi-jeong said that she would occasionally call him, and asked Gu-jeong to meet her once or twice a month. Hearing this, Gu-jeong also told Mi-jeong to live in Seoul so that she could live normally, because according to Gu-jeong, normal life is if her desires are the same as other people. Besides that, Gu-jeong also advised Mi-jeong to live like other women who always deserve a lot of happiness. Hearing that, Mi-jeong said that she would continue to live like this. The next day, Mi-jeong's father, who knew that Gu-jeong would stop working, then told him to come back if someday Gu-jeong changed his mind and wanted to work again. While elsewhere, Mr. Beck was seen running from the police chase. When he arrived at a dead end, Mr. Beck jumped over the road divider so that Mr. Beck was stabbed by the iron of the building project, and it made him die. Meanwhile, Mi-jeong, who was feeling sad, then contacted Gu-jeong, but Gu-jeong's cell phone number could no longer be contacted. When at the funeral home, Gu-jeong even looked happy with Mr. Beck's death, because he still couldn't believe that Mr. Beck had just died. A year has passed. They are now living with their respective activities, but they still remember each other. Next, Gu-jeong, who decided to come to see Mi-jeong, is now seen standing in front of her house, but a woman suddenly came out so that it made him confused. It turned out that the woman was Mi-jeong's father's new wife because Mi-jeong's mother had died. Mi-jeong's father then explained that at that time his wife was cooking rice for him. Chang-gi, who saw the rice burnt, then decided to wake his mother, but it turned out that his mother had died. Chang-gi, who felt panicked, then ran to tell his father that his mother had died, and since then his 3 children felt so miserable that they decided to move to Seoul, and after their departure to Seoul he is now taken care of by his new wife and also his children. Mi-jeong's father then gave Mi-jeong's new phone number to Gu-jeong, after which Gu-jeong then contacted Mi-jeong and made an appointment to meet somewhere. Because it has been a long time since they met, the two of them became awkward. While smiling, Mi-jeong also said that Gu-jeong's hair had become long. Gu-jeong then confidently said that he was more handsome with a hairstyle like this. After that, they walked while continuing to talk. Mi-jeong then asked where Gu-jeong knew her new number. Hearing that, Gu-jeong replied that a few days ago he went to Mi-jeong's house to meet her. Mi-jeong then realized that Gu-jeong already knew that her mother had died and her father had remarried, and after that the two of them went to the market for a walk. While enjoying the food, Gu-jeong suddenly got a call from Samsik, so Gu-jeong told Mi-jeong to wait for him because he would meet Samsik for a while. After arriving at the destination, Gu-jeong immediately went inside and checked the financial statements. Gu-jeong and Samsik immediately went to the club, and when they arrived, Gu-jeong saw one of the pimps being beaten by someone with a bottle until it made his forehead bleed. The woman was angry because she had been fired from her job after Gu-jeong came to collect his debt. Seeing that, Gu-jeong became very angry and immediately cornered the woman against the wall. Gu-jeong then said that he would be rude to people who were not responsible for their debts. After that, the upset Gu-jeong then entered the assistant's room and threw away all the items, so he managed to find money under the chair. It turned out that Samsik corrupted the club's money for gambling, which made Gu-jeong even more emotional. After that, Gu-jeong met Mi-jeong back at the restaurant. When she saw the wound on Gu-jeong's cheek, Mi-jeong said that Gu-jeong had become a different person in just 1 hour, after which the two of them spent the night together in the apartment. The next day, Chang-gi contacted his father and told him that he would visit next week, and long story short, Mi-jeong, Gi-jeong and Chang-gi returned to Sanpo village. Their Duan welcomed them happily because today was their father's birthday. While eating together, their father said if they could not live while in Seoul, then they could return and live together again in the village.
아빠보다 나 혼자 살아.
Short story short, Ka-hyuk also met with Mi-jeong. Ka-hyuk said that next month he would start installments to pay his debts. Hearing that, Mi-jeong also looked very happy. While at home, Gi-jeong was brought flowers by Taehan and it turned out that they were now dating. Long story short shows Mi-jeong and Gu-jeong, whose lives are now happy after knowing love. Now they feel better than before, because in their hearts they have been filled with love from the people they love the most. The end.